What did your friend do that instantly turned you on? I had a friend I hung out with in high school. We often did homework together and always studied for big tests together. She was attractive, but I never looked at her that way. One day, when we were studying in the library, I noticed her mood had changed. When I asked her about it, she came up very close to me and offered to smell it. I never thought I could get an erection so quickly. After that, things went even further, and we eventually got married many years later.
Unexpectedly put her legs on my lap while I was sleeping in the car. After coming home from college, I went to visit a friend from high school. We were sitting on the couch at her house reminiscing, and suddenly, out of nowhere, she put her feet on my thigh and said, "I'm putting this right here." I didn't move for 20 minutes and even kept my hand on her knees for a while. Being a teenager is hard.
I always use my short name, and he was the only person who always called me by my full name. I don't know why, but at those moments, my knees always buckled. My name has changed. My name is Eloise, but everyone calls me Elle.
I hadn't had classes at college for about a week when I returned. My friend, who I hung out with every day, ran up and hugged me. She didn't just hug me, she jumped up and wrapped her legs around me, and we just looked at each other. I should have just seized the moment, but alas, Ilya only realized this several months later. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have been such an idiot.
I was making coffee for us in an AeroPress and was slowly pressing down on it from above as expected when she moved the stones a little and pressed on my hand to lower the press faster. It was damn hot, and I will never forget it.
A girl I befriended on a school trip in high school fell asleep on my shoulder on the way back. I'm 28 years old, and I still live in that memory.
I have a friend at home one day when we were drinking with friends. She started singing, and at that moment, I looked at her and saw not just my friend, I saw a very attractive young woman. Sometimes I still remember that moment when I look at her, and it's hard to drive away the thoughts.
One morning, a friend of mine was helping me clean up after a huge house party, and we were picking up trash outside. She walked past me, put her hand on my right shoulder, and lightly ran it down my back until she reached my left shoulder. It was like a command on a touchscreen that short-circuited all my senses for a split second. Such a simple thing, but it hooked me 100%.
Oh my God, my best friend kind of scratched the back of my head when he passed me in class, and my whole body just froze until that moment. I never even thought that such simple gestures could cause such a storm of emotions. He was driving and I was in the passenger seat. He had to reverse into parallel parking and turn his torso towards me, clasping my seat with his hand to look back. He did it so confidently and simply that it turned me on a little.
She asked me to touch her thighs because she had been working out in the gym for a long time and was proud of the results of her work.
In high school, I had a good friend who would often lift her shirt a little and ask me to feel her abs. I'm sure she had no ulterior motives, but it was cruel to a high school student, even though she had great abs.
I had a friend who would jokingly lick my face because she was one of those girls who thought they were weird or tried to act weird. It definitely stirred something inside me, even though I wasn't particularly into her romantically. She was licking me, and I felt arousal creeping up on me, and I was like, oh my God, please don't get up. No, 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 no.
It happened 5 years ago in high school. My friend and I were in the same group for a science project. We met after school at her house because she had no one home. She didn't want to come to my place when I was sitting at my laptop reading. She scratched my forearms with her nails to get my attention. Oh my God, her look and the scratching, I still remember it.
We were climbing rocks together. The rope was too tight, so he helped me untie it, and he came close enough for me to catch his scent. And in fact, he smelled so good. It may seem strange, but that's what it is. And no, he wasn't that sweaty because he was belaying me. A few years ago, my friend and I were lounging around making flower crowns on a grassy hill when she decided to slide down said hill. As she did, her shirt lifted up, and I saw the sun reflecting off her bare skin. I swear, time stood still, and all my blood vessels simultaneously woke up. The sun shone brighter, the flowers smelled sweeter. It was as if I'd briefly entered a more perfect dimension. That's when I realized I was definitely not straight. My boyfriend does this all the time. He takes my shopping bags and puts his hand on my back when we cross the street. I'm short and limp, and he's so kind and caring. I've asked him out 3 times already, each time about 2 years apart. He very politely declined. We're great friends, and I'm happy about that.
We were neighbors. She had just kicked out her ex-boyfriend, and our power was out due to freezing temperatures. The power was restored later, but the heating was off, and I wasn't working in the apartment. She called emergency services, but the repairmen were busy fixing the heating elsewhere. We were hanging out at my place, watching movies and warming up with my heating, even though it was still cold. So we lay on the couch, covered with a blanket, cuddled up, drinking whiskey. She passed out on the couch, so I covered her with an extra blanket and went to my room. About an hour later, she comes into my room and just collapses on the bed next to me, crawls under the blanket, cuddles up to me, then tells me I'm cold and passes out. I don't know, maybe I felt desired? Nothing happened between us. The next morning, she woke up, made me breakfast, and went back to her apartment.
One girl started tickling me when I started tickling her back. She moaned and said she had a sensitive area there. It was an awkward ride home for me.
I know this feeling in my case. My friend and I were watching a movie back in middle school. It was a bit chilly, and we were kind of playfully fighting over a blanket. It turned into something like a tickle fight, but I won because I'm not ticklish, except for a few extremely sensitive spots, while he was ticklish everywhere. He told me it was unfair that he couldn't tickle me since my only ticklish spots were the side of my chest and the back of my knees. I dared him to offer to tickle me there, thinking he'd never do it because he was a good boy. He went along with it completely and mercilessly tickled me for about a minute until it turned into complete and total desire. We started kissing. We never had a repeat kissing session, but after that, there was always a huge sexual tension between us, and it really ruined our friendship.
This girl was very emotional and hugged all her friends. When she started hugging me, I felt really awkward, so I admitted that I had never hugged a girl before. She said, quote, "It's okay, I'm your first time." All my friends laughed at how it sounded, while I tried to hide my boner.